I'm pushing up.
Rotate.
No, they're rotating back. They're rotating back. They're
gonna go. Just rotate, guys. Just rotate. Give it up. Just give it up. Nice. Rotate.
Greetings and welcome to episode number 17 of The Rotation with Z-Hack. I am so excited to be back. The Call of Duty League, we're flying through it. We're in stage 4 already. I can't believe how fast everything is happening. There's matches left and right. There's majors won. There's all-star weekends. Then bam, we hop straight back into it. I don't want to hear anybody making fun of me, telling me I'm greasy and I look like crap today, okay? Because look at my hair. Yeah, I know. I get it. I've been up since 5 in the morning. I went on a run, hung out, made some coffee, and I haven't showered yet, okay? All right, what's the worst you can do for me here? It's nothing that you can go ahead and talk smack to me about. I got up, got my workout in, ran my 5K, crushed it, like 830 miles. I'll take it all day, every day. Now it's time to record The Rotation with Z-Hack, and we're gonna game a little bit. We got our trusty wingman in the house today, Murph. Oh, big yawn. What's up, buddy? You ready to talk some Call of Duty? I think he is. All right. Let's hop right into it, guys, because we are ready to rock and roll. Stage 4, week 2, just around the corner. It'll be here in a couple days, and we have some exciting matches to get to. We'll break them all down later. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at ZHack16. Like, subscribe, share, and comment on YouTube with all your friends, family. You know the drill. Let's do it. Get a sip of coffee and talk some First Blood. My first blood take today pertains to what's going on in the CDL as far as our map sets and vetoes and things of that nature. As we all know, Standoff is back in the game, and a lot of you guys were excited, but we've seen Raid and Standoff both come back this season, and I'll tell you what, I'm giving you my honest opinion. That's what I do. I am sick of recycling maps from year to year. I understand the nostalgia aspect for a lot of people, but don't we have creative minds developing these games? Like, can't we be progressive and create good new maps that people enjoy to play instead of spending $60 on the same exact game every single year? I get it. We've seen it in the past. We like watching it. All these veterans who have played on it, yeah, they're going to say it's cool. I used to run this map, yada, yada, yada. But let's be progressive, okay? We're developing a new game every year. We want new stuff. That's why we get so excited at release and stay up till midnight and call into work the next day, call out sick to school. It's so we can play a new game and do something else. Guys, we have Raid and Standoff back in Cold War now, and they're both in competitive, plus Express for Search and Destroy. We're literally recycling BO2 at this point. I'm sick of it. I can't do it anymore. I get it. Maybe it's fun for some people to watch and have nostalgia, but I just can't get behind it. We gotta bring in some new maps and have some life in these games. We seriously have not had a good original map set since like old jetpack games. I'm talking BO3 and I'm talking Infinite Warfare, and then I'll give it to Black Ops 4. There were some good maps in that game, but other than that, we've been lackluster. When we talk about what it takes to make a great Call of Duty, you have a couple bullet points to hit. The movement, it's smooth. There's a good feel to the guns, how they shoot, recoil patterns, things of that nature, and we have great maps. Those are the 3 bullet points that we have to hit, and I quite frankly don't believe that we've had good maps in quite some time. I look back to Black Ops 3, I loved watching competitive in that game. We had some stellar ones. I'm talking we had Breach, we had Fringe, we had Infection and Redwood. And then who can forget Stronghold CTF? Like, Black Ops 3 had one of the best competitive map sets in my opinion. Then you advance to Infinite Warfare, and I think that's another jetpack game, which was one of my favorite, to be honest. I know that game gets a lot of flack and people hated it. I thought it was a fun game to play. I thought competitive was a lot of fun to watch, and maps were another good thing there. There were huge moments on Breakout late in games with hardpoint rotations all the way over to Cave, ending there with NV4s and K-bars flying all over the place. Great map. Crusher, fun to watch. Scorch, yeah, it was a good map, and who can forget Throwback and Retaliation? That was one of the most diverse games in Call of Duty competitive history when it came to map sets, what we saw played, and how much the picks, bans, and vetoes and what we did there could change a series. Other than that, like those last 2 jetpack games were what we had for good maps, guys. Like, you can't tell me otherwise. And then we got into World War II, and that was, we all know what we think. You know, it was Arden Forest, CTF, over and over and over and over. Gibraltar was okay, you know, here and there. London Docks, it was a good map, but not a lot of people liked World War II. I thought it was a good game. It was fun for the competitive system for public players, but as far as maps, like, it was still lackluster there, and Black Ops 4 was really the last good game we had with maps. I liked Arsenal a lot. Gridlock, it wasn't bad for competitive, and then we saw some other things. One of my favorites, to be honest, in that game was Seaside. I loved how streaks could take over Seaside, but depending on what hill you called them in Hardpoint, or if it was played for control, there were a lot of different variables that could come into play, and it could either make or break a series if you won that Seaside. And plain and simple, like, Seaside was huge. That back hill on Fountain, everybody, it was the money hill. If you had your Tempest, if you had some streaks, you could play it perfectly and go big and end up winning a game. But honestly, when I talk about the maps, like Standoff, Raid, and Express all coming back into Cold War, I don't like it. Like, let's get some creativity. Let's bring some new maps to life, develop them, and be progressive with what we do. I don't care if you have a simple 3-lane map where you go mid, left, and center lane. I don't care if you have layers with top and bottom, buildings, whatever it may be, but cater to competitive play. Like, the Call of Duty League is a multi-million-dollar industry at this point, and we're trying to expand and bring more franchises into the league. At some point, you have to start developing your game towards them. You have to focus on the public players that are always there and who are just there for fun or whatever it may be. But then you have to have a team, I feel like, dedicated towards competitive, and get feedback from players, coaches, GMs, and say, hey, what do you guys want to see for maps? Is this good? Test it out. That map sucks. Okay, we'll go back to the drawing board. We'll leave the general consensus of it, but then we'll adjust some things here and there and change it up. But if we keep getting old maps recycled, I don't know if I can do it. That's what makes Call of Duty what Call of Duty is. Like, we've had different maps from year to year, different weapons from year to year. It's not like CSGO where they've been playing the same map for 15 years straight. That's what makes Call of Duty different. I understand the nostalgia, but I'm tired of having everything come back, if I'm being honest. That's my take. That's what I have to say. That's my first blood. It's the fact that all these maps coming back into the game from previous Call of Duty titles, I don't like it. Get progressive, create something new, make it enjoyable for us to watch. Give me your opinion. Tell me if you think I'm an idiot. Tell me what you think about my take there on Twitter at zhack16 or in the comments on YouTube. That is my first blood take, though. Now we have to hop in to what we saw surrounding Stage 4 Week 1 and what we have headed into Week 2 of Stage 4. It is the Barracks news and notes from around the league. There's a lot to touch on when it comes to the Barracks news and notes from around the league, and I promise you we'll break down some of these matches from Week 1 in a second from the Optic home series. But first, I have to give you some of my weekend observations from what I saw and my notes. That's why it's called Barracks news and notes around the league, because these are my notes. These are my weekend observations, what I saw, what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I think from match to match and what happened for certain teams. So the first thing and the first observation that stands out to me from this past week, Week 1 of Stage 4, is that the Florida Mutineers are disgusting. They have it all going for them. They have a great social media team. Their uniform, their jersey is probably the sickest one in the CDL, and their branding is dope. Like that teal and all the design and everything that they have going for them. It's incredible. I got to get some merch. Murphy over here, he needs some Florida Mutineers merch, so we're going to hop on and start buying some stuff. But as far as gameplay goes, as a team, they are looking really, really good. I'll tell you, in my opinion, the key part of that is because the way Havoc has adjusted and started playing. He has stepped into his role, allowing others to shine. We always say the route man gets paid, and we know Havoc is a stellar search and destroy player. For him, it always comes down to how he'll perform in the respawns and what role he'll step into. He's not a guy who's going to go take a lot of individual gunfights except for those 1v1s that he has to win when he's rotating early for the team and pulling a route. And we've started to see him win a higher percentage of those one-on-ones, which gives his team the rotation, allows Skies and Awakenings to get into power positions, and then Neptune can just slay on the rotation when he's coming out, and Havoc has stepped into that role incredibly. He knows his place. He's sacrificed what a lot of other people may want in the Call of Duty League of building stats, making the big plays, being a highlight MVP type player. He knows exactly what he needs to do for Florida to succeed, and you saw it in their matches from this past week. What he was able to do in their first match against Toronto was incredible. You know he's going to perform in the SND, like I said, but he stepped in huge in the hard points. That's where he stood out this week. He still has to work in control, let me tell you. But you got to give credit where credit is due, and Havoc looked really good in the hard points against the Toronto Ultra. When they played the London Royal Ravens a little bit later on, the hard point wasn't as good, but the team had his back. They won the series 3-0, and the rest is history. I really like what the Florida Mutineers are doing, and in their group, they look extremely dangerous right now. That's my first observation from week 1 of Stage 4. And the other thing, I think it's kind of plain and simple, and it's right in front of you. It is that the Atlanta FaZe, they're the best in the game. I mean, by far, they are the most incredible team in the Call of Duty League. They've already qualified for champs, and no one else is even catching them when it comes to points in the CDL. I think the thing that makes the Atlanta FaZe so good and tough to beat, and the only people who have done it so far were the Toronto Ultra, the thing that sets them apart is that every single week and every single match, somebody new is stepping up big when it matters. We've seen in the past Simp and Abizi, the Tiny Tears, they slay out. They do their thing. They're pretty consistent. But then we saw in the Stage 3 Major, Alec, Arcides, he popped off. He was the MVP for the Atlanta FaZe by far. And now you look into week 1 of Stage 4, and Celium is coming into his role, stepping up big, slaying out and saying, hey, don't you forget about me, because he is disgusting. Like, Celium popped off for the Atlanta FaZe in week 1 of Stage 4. The Atlanta FaZe made Optic look like a bunch of clowns with a 3-0 yet again, and then against the Paris Legion, they did the same with a stellar 3-1. These guys are so gross because they have 4 of the best individual talents in the Call of Duty League. They all know where they're supposed to be, at what time, and they'll sacrifice for each other. They'll trade each other, they'll sacrifice and throw their body out so someone else can trade for them. They'll play the power position and they'll say, listen, I'm going to be the MVP of this map, and you guys are going to sit back and enjoy the show. And other times, they'll say, yo, I'm going to be the route man, I'll sacrifice, I'll take the 1v1 across the map, I'll rotate 30 seconds early. These guys love each other, and it shows. They're the best team in the game. I mean, the Atlanta FaZe could have won all 3 majors so far if it wasn't for a hot Toronto Ultra team. They're incredible, like plain and simple. The last big observation that I had from week 1, it's that the LA Thieves, they came through and they clutched up when they needed to. Really shouldn't have been a 5-map series against Seattle, in my opinion, although Classic has stepped in really big for the Surge after this first week, but they still have these quirks and kinks to figure out, and it's really hard to watch them struggle and not be able to win. But the LA Thieves, they were just able to pull it out in the end. They dominated the final Search and Destroy, and they got it done. I think it was big for Tej to kind of get back into a role, knock the cobwebs off, and get back into a groove. I feel like the composition of this team, they have so much fun together. Like TJ and Kenny love each other, and then you mix in Draza and Venom has stepped in, and these guys, it seems like when you see them on the cams afterwards, they're all best friends. They're having a lot of fun. They're doing it together. When push comes to shove and they have to be serious, they get it done, and they can be, but they have a lot of fun while they're doing it, which is something that's really important, and I think it's a kind of chemistry that can help them out come champs and come the Stage 4 Major when we're going to be on land, because they're all going to be together, they're all going to be loving it, and it's going to be hype. So the LA Thieves clutched up big with TJ coming back, and that's something that makes a big difference in my opinion, because you can look at it 2 ways. TJ, after performing huge, beating Optic 3-1 in his last match that he played before being benched for Huke, he was loving it. He was feeling good, and he was playing very well, and the team was as well. And then out of nowhere, they signed Huke, a generational talent, and put him on the bench. He could have been bitter and said, wow, screw these guys. I'm pissed off. I'm on the bench. I'm absolutely livid right now. He could have been, and he still could be that happened. But what he did, he waited for his opportunity to come back. Hugh goes back to the bench. TJ comes in, and he grabbed the opportunity. Life gave him lemons. He made lemonade, as those would say. He could have been upset. He could have been like, I don't care that you're subbing me back in for Hugh. I'm pissed off still that I got subbed out in the first place after I was playing so well and we beat the powerhouse that Optic is. He could have had a poor attitude, so shout out to TJ for making the best of a crappy situation in his opinion, in his situation, understanding this is a cutthroat business, and he got it done, plain and simple. Other than this, we did see JCap and Mud Dog kind of talk about Hugh not fitting. And basically what they said is just his play style was a little bit faster paced. He liked to play a lot of individual one-on-one gunfights around the map, which is kind of make or break. And they said that didn't work. It didn't fit with the team and how they were doing things, and that's why he's back on the bench. They gave it a shot. They had to, with how good of a player he is and his reputation in the Call of Duty scene. You have to give him a shot. But the way that he fit with Venom, Kenny, and Draza, it just wasn't the best of the situations that they could have had. They did go on to say that, hey, we're going to still work with him. We're going to see what he can do, and maybe he'll be back on the starting roster in no time. Maybe he won't be. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. I think right now, after winning the first match, you see what else the LA Thieves can do as weeks continue to come on. And with that, let's go ahead and break down some of the matches from week 1 of Stage 4 and give some predictions for week 2. I'm going to start this off right away with you guys, telling you that I am as salty as one can be. Because you look at me from the Chicago home series, I didn't give Florida Mutineers the credit. I'll give you guys that. I had Atlanta FaZe 3-0ing Paris. Paris took a map off of them. And then you go into this one right here. We'll break it down in a second. I had this one going the way of Toronto Ultra, but I knew it was going to be tight. I had it 3-2. I just had it in favor of Ultra. I thought they would clutch up in the S&D, and they didn't. They got beat by Florida, plain and simple. This right here, where my mouse is, that is what pisses me off. On Friday morning, the 28th, I went and worked out with my girlfriend, came back into the house. We got up early. I closed at work that day at noon, and we were going to make breakfast. It was great. I heat up the pan to start cooking for breakfast. I come over to my laptop and I say, oh, give me 1 second before we cook, baby. I have to make predictions for today's matches. I pick Dallas 3-2 over London, and I pick Optic 3-1 over Minnesota Rocker, and I click Save Predictions. And then I walk over and start cooking. From that point, something happened where my predictions didn't save, and I'm tilted. Because you look at the rest of my weekend, it's all green. I went perfect except for this one match against the Toronto Ultra. I would have had 3 for a perfect match, and I would have had 2 there. I would have 25 points headed into week 2 of Stage 4. I'm trying to win an Astro headset. I'm trying to win another Scuff Impact. I want the whole bundle. And that could be the decisive factor that breaks my predictions for Stage 4, and I'm pissed off at the website, at my internet, whatever happened. I clicked Save Predictions. I guarantee you, I promise to you, I'm not a liar. I wouldn't do something to just benefit myself. I had 3-2 Empire, 3-1 Optic, and I didn't get either of those matches. I was so mad because I didn't discover it until I was at work. I had it on in the background at work. I was holding my breath. I was getting butterflies on the inside when Dallas and London were going back and forth. Then Dallas won, and I was like, let's go. Let's see where I stand on the leaderboard. I log in to pick them. Nothing to be seen. I was livid. I gotta gain composure. I lost full. I just got to come back. I got to battle back and try and go perfect the rest of the way. When we look at these matches now, Atlanta FaZe, Paris Legion, you don't even need to break it down. I mean, the FaZe are too good. Like, plain and simple. I told you this already. They're so good at what they do. A big one here, Toronto Ultra and Florida Mutineers. Like the 3-2 in that series, the difference maker, I already talked about it, is Havoc. In the respawns, he played incredibly well. When you take a look at this and you go into that first hard point on raid, Havoc 24 and 18, all these guys had a positive KD. The search and destroy, you knew that's where he was going to be big, and he did it in a 6-2 and a 6-3 on Miami. In the raid, I mean, the raid control, that's the Toronto Ultras' best game mode. Like control is just their deal. You're probably not beating them when it comes to a control, and it showed for the whole team. Lackluster performances from Skies, Havoc, and Awakening there, but it didn't matter because they come on, they battle in the second hard point despite losing it. Havoc still had a 1.31 down here, tried to make the most plays he could, and then it was a big 6-3 in search and destroy on Miami. That shows the resilience of this Florida Mutineers team. These guys battled the entire series and they got it done, and they got off to a huge start in week 1 of stage 4 because they come out later on down the road and they pick up a hot 3-0 against the London Royal Ravens. Just a real stellar performance from all those guys, and they're starting to come in big. Like, Ricky is coaching that team incredibly well. The ownership is letting those guys do their thing, and it's stellar. My takeaway from Friday with Empire and Royal Ravens, there's some problems for the Dallas Empire. Vivid showed up. He made some big plays, but he also made some questionable plays and lost some gunfights and situations that he should have won. I know when push comes to shove, these guys will have more time to get it together and play with one another and find a groove, but right now, I'm worried for the Dallas Empire. These are your defending champions from Modern Warfare. Like, this is the team who did it all, and then they just fell apart. You go back to 4v4, you lose Clayster, then you have Krim, Shotzi, Illy, and Huke. Something happens where Huke goes out of here. Whatever happens, we don't know. And then following that, it's just been a lot of battles and trials and tribulations from there. They were there in the first major, and since then, it's been lackluster. They're still trying to find their stride and their footing. I don't think you can discount them. Even though I have my worries and my resiliency to put a good name on the Empire right now, I think Rambo Ray is one of the best in the business. He can coach this team to success, but they got to find their stride, and they have to do it quick. Like, time is running out, and I'm worried for them. As for the London Royal Ravens, it's just the roster changes, guys. Time and time again, they've made so many of them, they can't settle down and find a good composition. Like, I thought things were going well with Zap and Paul X, and then you see Zap get out of there. Now Afro, Shawnee, and those guys, and Alex is back, and give them time. If the London Royal Ravens can stop making roster changes and leave it as they are, I think they can do well. It came down, I think it was an express S&D for the final in this series, and Dallas Empire just clutched up, plain and simple. As far as Optic Rocker, that performance worried me a little bit from Minnesota Rocker, but they rebounded. But also, you have to give credit where credit's due, and Optic looked disgusting. Like, they 3-0'd Minnesota Rocker, and there wasn't even a question about it. They were frying. Envoy looked disgusting. Scump was there, and Dashy was playing his heart out. I like the progress that Optic is making. I was kind of scared seeing the performance from Major Maniac in that first match for Minnesota, but then he bounced back. You move along to Saturday, and Minnesota pulls off the 3-1 against Paris. I thought it was going to be closer after seeing what Optic did to Minnesota the day prior. Major Maniac stepped up a little bit there, and I know you guys saw all this. I know you guys probably tuned into the flank, and that's why I'm kind of just flying through these observations. The LA Thieves, I already talked about them in my observation from the week, and you have to feel bad for the Seattle Surge. They can't close. They can't get it done. I talked about it last week. They're the Cleveland Browns from 4 years ago. They're the worst team in the league. They have a lot of individual pieces. They can't win. They're terrible. They're the worst team in the Call of Duty League, and they have been since last year. I don't try and be rude. I try and give everyone a fair shot, but they can't win. Like, they're struggling. They can't close out series when they're tight, and other than that, they get smoked and blown out. Like, there's no here nor there. It's hard to watch. because I like those guys. I like Pierce, I like Pristini, I like Classic, and I like Octane. All of them as individuals, as personalities, they're great people, they're great players, but they just aren't getting it done this year. It's hard to watch, and it hurts me because I like their branding too. Like Florida Mutineers and Seattle Surge, those are two of the dopest brands in the Call of Duty League, and the Seattle Surge just aren't getting it done. You had to anticipate this, NYSL. They're just so good. Paco is a GOAT. He said, he came out and said his favorite American food is Jack in the Box, and I got your back, Paco, okay? I'm there for you, Hydra, because everyone came out and gunned after him on TikTok is where I saw this. NYSL posted it and asked him, what's your favorite American food? And he goes, oh, Jack in the Box. And they were like, really? That's disgusting. And Clayster goes, that's gross. Get out of here. I got your back, Paco, because don't even tell me. When you're pissed drunk at 2 a.m, and you order 4 tacos with some sweet and sour and ranch, maybe you get yourself a munchie meal with the chicken tater melt, curly fries, and regular fries, there's nothing better than that. So don't come after my guy Hydra because he fries. 3-1 over LAG. Dude, one of my biggest takeaways from this series, I love Cheen. I'm so glad he got his shot to come back into the league because he is disgusting and he's getting it done. LAG are just a couple of plays away from making strides. Move on to Sunday. I already talked about Florida. I talked about the bounce back from Toronto. They were able to get it done against Dallas, and that is where it worries me even more. Because Dallas were playing London on Friday. That's a bottom-tier team. Where it puts Dallas it is one of the bottom 6 in the league, I think, right now. And that's hard to say for these guys. Because then you see them face a top team on Sunday in the Toronto Ultra, and they get smoked. It's a 3-0. It's not even close. That's it. That's why I'm worried for them. Then you finish off the weekend. I thought it was going to be tight. I thought it was going to be a 3-2 with FaZe versus Optic. It wasn't. It wasn't even close, guys. It was a 3-0, and Celium, one of those guys I talked about, he looked disgusting in this series as well. He was frying absolutely everyone, having his way, and Optic just couldn't get anything started. Formal had the worst series of his career, but you can't let it get to you. You'll bounce back. You're 1-1 in your group. Optic can't let it get to them, and Atlanta FaZe, they're comfortable. Plain and simple. Let's move on now to week 2 and make these predictions for the Florida Mutineers home series starting June 3rd through the 6th. I'm excited for the Florida home series. I might have to order myself a shirt, a jersey. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to. I love this team. We start off with our first match. I think the struggles continue for the Seattle Surge. With FaZe 3-0ing Optic Chicago on Sunday, there's no way it doesn't go 3-0 against Seattle, right? I feel like the map set and the pool and the kind of variety that the Atlanta FaZe have to their game in perfecting their craft, I don't think that you can discount anything they're doing here. I think they win 3-0 over the Seattle Surge. I hate to say it, but it's just time and time again, Seattle just can't put together a performance as a team. I don't think you're going to do it against the best team in the game. You move along on Thursday. I wish we saw 3 matches here, but again, only 2. This one I think is going to be tight, and honestly, I lean towards the LA Gorillas. I think they take it in the 3-2. I think their search and destroy is just more sound right now. With the way that Chino and Silly are playing, I think they look really good, and I think LAG might be able to get it done against Dallas on Thursday in this matchup. As we progress on to Friday, you look at the LA Thieves. I like them a lot. I like the way Scraps has been playing, though, for the Paris Legion. Temps is going to want to battle, but ultimately, I think the LA Thieves get it done. I think now they've had more time to scrim. They've had more time to practice. They've had more time to get back together and enjoy themselves. And I do believe that TJ has a big performance, but Draza will be the one to look out for in this one, and it's a 3-1 over Paris. Next up, this is dicey. This right here should be the Game Fuel marquee matchup because it's going to be intense on Friday. Florida in their home series against the Subliners. I think this one can go the distance, and I would love to give it to Florida in their home series, but I think that the Subliners just do it. I think Clay comes to play here. Mac had an incredible week 1 of stage 4. I think he posted a 1.5 in the series they played. And I think that performance kind of translates into this matchup. And I think they show up big. And it's going to be a high-powered SMG battle in both matchups on the weekend for NYSL. I think Hydra wins it in this one. So it's a 3-2 to NYSL over Florida. Then we advance to Saturday. I think Toronto, they're still one of the top 3 teams in the league. They get it done against the Royal Ravens. The Royal Ravens are sneaky good on some of their hard points. So I think if they can take a map anywhere, it's going to be there in a hard point. It might be on an Apocalypse, but I also think Toronto might ban that and veto that one out so London can't play it. That's what I see there. Then you hop into another game fuel match. Double points on the line here. I think Optic look really good here. It might be a 3-0 against Paris. I'll give him a map. Do I really want to? Paris is either going to win the first hard point or they're going to get 3-0'd. I'm going to say they get 3-0'd by Optic on Saturday the 5th in a big matchup. And then this is a team I want to look out for. I know they only play one match this week, but as we get into fantasy, we're going to talk about a couple of their guys. But Minnesota versus Seattle, this is the time Seattle has to get something done. I think they can put a few numbers on the board, but I think, again, they falter in the search and destroy map 5. It goes the way of Minnesota. Finally, we look forward to Sunday and the final match for the Florida Mutineers in their home series. I think they take it 3-1 against the Gorillas. So the Gorillas split and go 1-1 this weekend, and Florida gets it done. They play really big. They play sound Call of Duty on Sunday and fly away with a win there. Despite this being a high-powered matchup between LA and Atlanta, I think that Atlanta, they're too well-rounded. They're too well coached by Crowder and Tupac when it comes to S&D. I think they get it done and they fry and they beat the LA Thieves. Finally, we've seen this storyline time and time again. Clayster against his old team, yada, yada, yada. I think they come out and they bring all the smoke. It's going to be another SMG battle here between these two teams. And I think that Hydra, he's going to get the better of Shotzi. I really do. And it's just, it's going to be hard to watch. I think Vivid will try and step into a role and help Shotzi out. But I just don't think you can outdo NYSL. The Empire may take a map here, but right now I'm leaning towards a 3-0 in favor of NYSL. And watch this. Look, you guys are seeing me click save predictions. You're seeing the spinning wheel load up here. We're going to wait for it to go through. Boom, it did it. That's exactly what happened last time when I hit save predictions, and then I got chalked in this match in the Chicago home series, and it didn't save either of mine. We have it on record now that I saved my predictions for this home series. That's what I have. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you join my leaderboard too. Okay? It's just right here. It's the rotation with Z-Hack. And the password is just rotation. Simple as that. Join that for me. Let's see who's actually the greatest. I don't think anyone's beating me in Pick'em, if we're being honest. Plain and simple, I'm the best. No shot. So those are my Stage 4 Week 2 predictions. We got a couple of things to get into to close out the show this week. And you guys have been loving these segments. You've been loving the fantasy. I've been loving and doing them. I think that that's one of the coolest things about the rotation with Z-Hack. I hold that niche. I hold fantasy Call of Duty. Everyone comes to me for the expertise, and I'm here to provide it for you. So without further ado, let's hop into it. Let's get some CDL Fantasy Standouts. Fantasy Standouts from the CDL. When we talk about CDL Fantasy Standouts, we're going back from last week, Stage 4, Week 1. The first guy I've teased a little bit already, but I got to delve into his performance more. It is Havoc from the Florida Mutineers. He posted the stats this week and had a statement match against the Toronto Ultra, and he stepped up big in the series with a 1.23 KD. Overall, he was monumental. We knew he was going to be big in the S&D, but where his gameplay has faltered in the past, it's in the respawns. Hardpoint, he stepped into the role big over the weekend against the Royal Ravens and against the Toronto Ultra. He had a 1.07 KD, and that is huge. He played out of his mind, and he stepped up big when things mattered. When you look to break down the series, in the first map, that 250 to 182 hardpoint on raid that they had, he went huge. A 1.33, 24 and 18, one of the top slayers on the team. He did the most damage on the map. He felt comfortable there, and he proceeded to stay comfortable in his bread and butter. Search and destroy on Standoff. We saw it for the first time. He looked good. 8 and 4, posting a 2 KD. Then the control, that's where he kind of fell apart, fell off the map. But honestly, the entire Florida Mutineers team did. He had a .67 KD there, 12 and 18. They got 3-0'd. I don't read into it too much. He did his best on the second hard point. 250 to 209. They lost this one on Moscow, but he posted a 1.31, and I think that's a map that really favors Havoc in a respawn. Finally, you already talk about it time and time again. We've seen him throughout his career. The 1v1s on his stream in the offseason in S&D. He gets so good at the timings, so good at playing these maps, and he comes in clutch when it matters. 10 and 5 in the Miami S&D to close out the series, and that is why Havoc is one of your CDL Fantasy Standouts from Stage 4 Week 1. I look for him to continue his big performance as we go along in this next week. I talked about my predictions already. We saw the matches that were coming up. I think that the Mutineers split. I think that they do good against NYSL, but they don't bring it home, and then they beat LAG. I think Havoc will still put up good stats in those two series. So watch out for him again, but he shined in week 1 of Stage 4. The next young gentleman I have to talk about as a fantasy standout from week 1 is Celium. He posted a 1.55 KD against Optic in a hot 3-0, and apart from that, a 1.14 versus Paris in the 3-1 on day 1. I talked about the Atlanta FaZe team, saying that it's somebody new every week, every stage who steps up big. It's been time for Celium to shine for a little bit, and he showed up big. The biggest matchup, let's be honest, it was against Optic. We always know everyone will bring their A game against them. Celium did. The 1.55 was huge. When you look at everything that happened, he had a 1.53 in the hard point against Optic, a 1.7 in the S&D, and he closed out the series with a 1.5 in control. He's starting to look absolutely disgusting in the respawns, and I don't think that anybody can slow down Celium. He went 18 and 12 in the raid control to close out the map against Optic, and it was 23 and 15 on the Moscow hardpoint. He looks really good, and I think that these guys have said a lot of good things about him. Abizi and Simp have both stepped up to say he's one of the quieter guys, but he's always happy playing the game. He's humble. He'll get out there. He'll play his ass off and perform the best as anybody can do in the CDL. I think when we look at the final CDL standout that I chose from week 1 in Stage 4, it's somebody who always puts up stats, and it just sucks because they don't always win, and sometimes that results in them getting 3-0'd or a series not going as far as it could and them not getting a win. Talking about the Seattle Surge, and I'm talking about Octane. He had a 1.32 this past weekend. Like, the guy's disgusting. They played the LA Thieves. He had a 1.42 hardpoint KD, a 0.92 in the S&D, and a 1.41 in the control. You can always count on him to slay out and be the postman when it comes to respawns. When you're thinking about starting someone from a week-to-week basis, even though he's not on like a top-tier team, Octane is a guy who will put up numbers. Like in fantasy football, when you have a running back who's going to get high volume, he's not splitting carries, he catches passes out of the backfield, but he not may be on the best team, like Christian McCaffrey of the Panthers. Like, that's Octane of the CDL. They might not always win, but he's always going to put up big respawn numbers, and he'll be hit or miss in the search and destroys. You always have to start Octane, and with those numbers, he was a CDL Fantasy Standout from week 1 of Stage 4. As we head in to week 2 for the Florida Mutineers home series, you already know what we got to do. We got to get in further into the fantasy, at least. Let's talk some buy or sell. Buy or sell Call of Duty League Fantasy. These are guys who you all have tweeted to me and said, hey, I'm kind of on the fence about starting these players. I have a few other guys on the verge in my lineups. What do you think with the matchups and everything that happens? The first one that I've been getting a lot of is Clayster, and I'll have to tell you, I'm buying on the veteran. You know that he knows that these are big matches coming up this week against Florida, who started huge week 1, and it's their home series. So he'll come out clutch and play big in that matchup. And then you already know the storyline is there. They play Dallas, and he will come out with the fire against Dallas in the final matchup of the weekend for NYSL. When you look at the stats from the previous week, it was honestly Mac who stepped up. He had the 1.5 KD, but buy or sell is all about guys who you're on the verge of, and it's like, okay, am I taking this guy? Am I not? What do you think, Z-Hack? I'm buying on Clayster. I think this week he'll be the AR that does end up stepping up for NYSL, and he's going to end up getting the job done. I think that he's one of the most prolific ARs. He knows to make smart plays in situations when everything like this happens. He still posted a 1.03 last week. He was big in the respawns with a 1.05 in the hard point and a 1.23 in the control. You know that's where he'll shine. Now it just comes down to the fact, can he go big in the SNDs? I think he will this week. He steps up and he'll make a difference. I'm buying and I'm starting Clayster. If you're on the verge of someone between him, let me know who it is, and I'll tell you. But right now, I think Clayster is a big guy to start this upcoming weekend for the Florida Mutineers home series. The next player that I've thought of myself, and they'll have a couple of matches this upcoming week, he comes from the LA Thieves. No, it's not Kenny. No, it's not TJ. No, it is not Venom. This week, I look at Draza. I think the role that he steps into plays strong against the Paris Legion. And also, even though I think that they'll get smoked in a 3-1 against the Atlanta FaZe, I think that Draza still has a big series and he has places where he can shine. He's one of the kids that I look out for who's kind of the sneaky underdog. All the way back to MW, I loved watching him as a rookie on LAOG. He has a 1.11 so far through week 1 in stage 4, just below a 1 with a 0.95 in the hard point, and then a 0.81 in the SND, but he stepped up huge with a 1.61 in the control. I think the way that he adjusts when TJ is on the map, it benefits him greatly. I think you watch out for that, and this LA Thieves team is going to start playing towards Kenny and Draza in those favorable situations. We know the role swap that happened where Kenny stepped in to something a little bit different than what we've seen. I think Draza has done the same. He looks really good, and I think the matchups that he has this weekend, he's going to fry against Paris, and I think on the main stage in a big spot against Atlanta FaZe, the young kid will step up. So I'm buying on Draza. Look out to start him this week. Those are the two big ones. If you want to talk somebody to sell on that you're on the verge of, let me find someone for you real quick. I think that an important situation and something to see from this past weekend, he comes from the Paris Legion. Scraps had a really, really big week 1 in stage 4, and he played really well, and he put up some numbers for the Paris Legion. He posted a 0.93. He's one of those flex guys that could have been big for your roster if you're in a deep enough league. I don't start Scraps this week. Against the LA Thieves and against Optic, I sell on him. I know he's a good player, but you can find some more value and you can find somebody else on your bench. Look at a guy like Cheen or Silly, and also a matchup that you see Seattle could do something on the second week or the second match they have against Minnesota Rocker, but I steer clear of any of them. I look for someone like Cheen or Silly from LAG to go ahead and start there. Also, if you're looking on Dallas Empire, you can find one of those guys to put in place of Scraps. Sell on Scraps this week just because the matchups. That's my 2 cents. One more to get into when we talk fantasy. One of your guys' favorites. It's the underdogs. It's the guys you may not have an eye out for or not even remember are going to pop off in the coming weeks. Yeah, we're talking about it. CDL Fantasy Sleepers. CDL Fantasy Sleepers. There's a couple of guys that I want to keep an eye out on this week, and a few that I will put into my starting lineup in my big leagues where they're deep enough. The first one I talk about comes from the Minnesota Rocker. the first player that's a big sleeper who I think you need to start for week 2 of stage 4 is Priesta. I know you're going to say, Z-Hack, you're crazy. What are you talking about? He had a .81 between the matches last week, but look at the matchups this week. They play Seattle this time around, and I like him to go big there. I know that's the only matchup of the week for the Minnesota Rocker, but I think they're back. Major Maniac is there, and I think Priesta can kind of free roam and do whatever he wants to do on the map now that they have everything settled. I think Standy will fry, Attach will get it done, Major Maniac knows his role, and that means Priesta can get back into his spot where they just kind of let him do his own thing, and there's not a better matchup that you can ask for than the Seattle Surge. I also think this one could go the distance. The Seattle Surge are going to come out with fire in their bellies. They're going to force it 5 maps, which means that gives Minnesota Rocker more time, and that gives Priesta more time to pad the stats. He's one of the sleepers that I look at this upcoming week. I start Priesta if you have the opportunity and you need someone who just has one match. Plain and simple. The other sleeper is someone from a team who I've discounted recently just because of their performance. One of the best SMGs in the game as far as talent goes, movement, his shot is crispy. Hint, hint, it's in his name, Shotzzy. He has a big SMG match against NYSL on Sunday. He and Hydra, they're going to be going tit for tat. I think Hydra ultimately wins the battle, but I think it's not going to happen before Shotzzy shows up. Also, he has the opportunity to get hot against LAG early on in this week in day 1, and that's a series that I have going 5 games. I think you give Shotzzy a shot as a sleeper this week and put him in your lineup. A lot of you guys have been doubting him, and a lot of you have been doubting anyone from Dallas, rightfully so. Shotzzy, through week 1 of stage 4, he just posted a .88 KD, and I know that's not going to be big for your stats in your fantasy leagues. He's a sleeper that I look out to start in stage 4 week 2. I think he puts up big numbers against LAG, helps to possibly get the job done, but I ultimately think LAG win that series. But Shotzzy, if anyone's going to be the difference maker for Dallas, it is him. Finally, with the big match against NYSL, it's make or break time for Dallas. They're going to be throwing everything they can at the subliners, and I think it starts with Shotzzy. He's going to be making big plays on the map. He'll be a performer this week. Watch out for him. He's my final CDL Fantasy Sleeper of the week as we head into week 2 of stage 4. So that's what you have to watch out for. Guys, I'll be active on Twitter throughout the week leading up to these matches for the Florida Mutineers home series. So tweet me. If you have a couple of guys you're picking between, you say, which one do I start, which one I sit, send it to me. I'll give you my 2 cents. I'll tell you why. I'll give you my opinion. Always shoot out your fantasy questions for the CDL to me. Pick them. Same thing for that. I hope you guys have a great week for the Florida Mutineers home series. But first, before we do that, we got to get into everybody's favorite segment. It has been, and it will continue to be. We're talking who is the best in the game. There's a player I teased already when it comes to fantasy, when it comes to how the teams performed. You look at who is the best in the game headed into week 2 of stage 4, and after this past week, it's Celium. Not only did the kid put up monumental stats this past week, but he is selfless. He looks to his teammates to know his role. He figures that out, and then he fries from there on out and makes every correct play that he possibly could in order to get it done for the Atlanta FaZe. It's why they're so good. It's because someone like him can be selfless and step up in a big way. He had the 1.55 against Optic. That speaks for itself. Big matchup, and he puts up big numbers. Same thing against Paris with the 1.14 KD. I think Celium continues to bring that kind of hype and continue to hit his stride into this next week and throughout stage 4. Watch out for him now, and watch out for him when we get to LAN. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in to episode number 17 already of The Rotation with Z-Hack. I've had a lot of fun. Murph over here, he's had a lot of fun. I think we got to take him out to go potty here real quick. He's going to be ready for that. Let's see. Hey, Murph, you got to go potty? You got to go potty? Yeah, he does. All right, guys. With that being said, that wraps up episode number 17 of The Rotation with Z-Hack. Thanks so much, as always, for being here, guys. Twitter, ZHack16, YouTube, Zach Warhack, or just look up The Rotation with Z-Hack. It's been a blast, as always, and I can't wait to see you guys next time, and we'll see you then. Peace.